Hey guys, Mustached Tom here to review Invincible, Season 3. So, for those of you who have not been keeping up with Invincible, or my channel in particular, I showed my displeasure for Invincible Season 2. And I'm going to go into, once again, why I believe Season 2 was an absolute blunder of a season from Invincible Season 1. But I'm going to also try to be as objective as possible and be as fair as possible, as well simultaneously. And with that, let's dive right in. So, as expressed in my Invincible Season 2 video, I had expressed that, to put it in layman's terms, it felt like the season had, and I don't usually use this term too often, so you should know that this is pretty significant. If a season has used the expression jumped the shark, as it were. So I want to take a moment, and it's pretty early on in this video, to talk to anybody who comes across this video who might be a fan of Invincible, or just in comic books, or maybe you're starting out writing a comic or writing a story in general, and I want to talk to these people, because I think that Invincible Season 2 should be shown in classes of what not to do when you're writing a story. I seriously still believe that, from seeing the outcomes in Season 3. So, just as a reminder, what was introduced in Season 2 was this big expansion of time travel and different dimensions and all of this nonsense that the MCU has been poisoned with for a long time now, and we're only in Season 2 of Invincible, and we're already talking about different dimensions and time travel. Like, this seems like the end of a comic run happening in Season 2 of Invincible. That, to me, is like jumping from point A to point Y, and then Season 3 is point Z, like the final stop. It's like, how are people a fan of that? I'm sorry, but like, what? So, this was, also in response, the person responsible for Invincible as a whole comic book concept was Robert Kirkman, the person responsible for The Walking Dead. Now, The Walking Dead, I would argue, has a phenomenal Season 1. And it's definitely petered off in Season 2, to a degree. I would, there's a lot of drama, shifting, and all that, but for the most part, I think The Walking Dead, despite that, managed to survive a little bit past, in terms of writing quality, a little bit past Season 2. And I think what made Season 2, because of the ending of Season 1, you have this sort of resting arc, if you want to call it that, for Season 2. And, because Season 2 for me, at least in The Walking Dead, comparatively, Season 2 to 2, if you were to directly compare it, Season 2 of The Walking Dead is this very slow, methodical, they're on the farm, like, a majority of the time, there isn't a lot of zombie activity until the big reveal. Obviously, we all know, anyone who's watched The Walking Dead knows what I'm referring to. And it's all building and cultivating toward that, or at least, and then escalating from there moving forward. Obviously, that isn't the end of Season 2, but you get my drift, is that there was this slow, methodical build-up. And to me, in retrospect, I think that's actually why Season 2 is a lot better than what people would argue, I've seen arguments that Season 2 wasn't that great. I have. Across the internet. A few times. Sporadically, I would argue. So, I did want to address that, because I think that is the type of pacing that is severely missing from Invincible Season 2 in comparison, because by God did they just lambast past Season 2. There are so many characters with so many arcs that just ended or were just out, the robot kid is a perfect example. He would be the number one I would actually point to be like, you just finished his character arc. What are you going to do with him? And to give them some credit, they try to, again, attach him to the monster girl that he's trying to help. And, I saw that coming, but it's like, okay, but what is he dealing with now? His character arc, as I argued in Season 2, is done. And it's like, okay, so what is keeping him an interesting character onto himself, is what I'm trying to argue here. You see, and this is something that has been argued in criticism of Hell of a Boss, in Moxie and Millie, is that, this is, and even arguably worse for those who are criticizing it, is because, Moxie and Millie are packaged as almost this single entity, despite them being two characters. And I think that is an interesting aspect to writing a couple, right? Is that you want a dynamic that is very clearly distinct, while simultaneously, while also, creating the energy and chemistry that allows the audience to believe that they ought to be together. You have these two diverging issues, right? You have, again, them as separate characters, and then how do they interact and coalesce in this, this chemistry, right? And again, a lot of people have argued that in season in Hell of a Boss for Moxie and Millie, where their dynamic is and who gets the bigger character development. A lot of people would argue Moxie, and then Millie got her moment to shine later on, etc., etc. Point being is that, if you are writing, there is this idea of going back to the basics, and this is something that I practice for myself, is when I'm writing a story, I have a separate document, and it is purely dedicated to just writing, this is a first character. They have these qualities, these strengths, these weaknesses, who they're attached to, who they're attracted to, all of it, right? Just character-focused stuff on there, and that's it. An entire document that is dedicated to this, and I think that's something that I would argue probably both shows have, I would argue actually even more Invincible than even Hell of a Boss actually needs right now, is this sort of building block process that it feels like it's desperately missing from the show. Or at least, again, you saw the beginning prospects of what made the robot character, his own issues, right? You saw what made him unique from the set of other characters. But again, to finish that off as early as Season 2, again, jumping the shark, feels like it's a disservice to the character, especially when there's a lot you can explore with that type of archetype of, an individual, who's struggling essentially with self, or ought to be dealing with self, in that perception of what that means. And so all of that gets rushed in Season 2, and you have all this time travel nonsense, again, all packaged in Season 2. So now we roll into Season 3, and we're already beginning with that in the backs of people's minds who've just watched Season 2 and are now picking up Season 3. Now, I've not seen a lot of videos on Season 3 yet. I saw one video pop up, on my feed at least, so I can't argue that, whether or not majority people find this good or not. Though if I had to take a stab in the dark, I probably would wager that most people found this to be good, which is so unfortunate. And again, that's just a stab in the dark. I have no clue, right? It's just my total guess. And I think that does come down to this more baseline of, finding the smaller, simplistic things satisfying enough, right? The characters fighting, etc., etc., the really basic stuff. And to me, Season 3, simultaneously, while having carried on its issues from Season 2, I would argue does something quite fascinating. Dare I say, it creates one of its best characters, and then jumps the shark with that character immediately. As I just stated, happened in Season 2 to another main antagonist of Season 2, who is also here in Season 3. He's still alive. He got resurrected or whatever, healed up. And again, I feel like the premise of this character is so interesting that it creates this whole problem that I have now with the world building versus the way the heroes operate. And it's all backed by Season 2 and now in Season 3. Because Season 1, I don't think, had the luxury of that issue. Everything, that Omni-Man was doing was very new, very fresh, very primal of, people were just not aware of, that. And then it sort of caught up. But my issues from that to, again, Season 2 moving forward is that, at least in Season 2, it felt like there was not a character that was primed to be I need to, upgrade myself. This world is fucking nuts. There's, alien invasions every single day. What the fuck am I doing? I need to, better myself as a human being. And that happens here in Season 3. And it's okay, you've addressed that for one character, okay, that's a good start, and then you immediately, heel turn, because, Mark argues later on in this very season that he might have had a point, right? The antagonist might have had a point, which is compelling. Don't get me wrong. That is compelling. That's what a good antagonist should do. It should challenge your hero's perspective. I couldn't disagree with that less. The problem is, again, the pacing here. It all happens way too fast. And maybe it's the amount of episodes they're allotted, but again, I don't even think that can be entirely blamed on the amount of episodes they get, because Season 2 also had this issue, and they jumped the shark even then. So it feels like it does come down to the writing, not so much how many episodes they've gotten. I think it was around approximately the same episode count, 7 or 8 or whatever it was for this season, or half a season or whatever it is. Point being is that, again, now post jumping the shark, what we are dealt with is a return of that antagonist, as I mentioned, and that happens at the latter half of the season. And we're sort of slow-balling a new relationship, obviously, with Mark and, oh god, I can't even recall her name. And, oh, Eve. Yes, sorry, I almost struggled to remember that. And, again, that should demonstrate something, right? That I had to, like, pause myself and go, wait a minute, we're not talking about the ex anymore, we're talking about, right, the new relationship. So I had to catch myself there and be like, wait a minute, what was her name again? Eve, right. So, like, here we have, you know, a fundamental building block, new relationship heading off, and again, the entire argument within that relationship is like, oh, we're moving too fast. You know, Eve is the one, when Mark, you know, makes the move forward. That, you know, everything's moving too fast. And I feel like this is almost like breaking the fourth wall in a weird way. And it's like, okay, so you're addressing the issue, but I think you're not looking at all the other stuff. You're clearly trying to be like, go, 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 you know, just move, move, move. That is happening in Season 3. And, again, like, there's stuff to breathe in. Like, again, they have this relationship build up. And then, as what becomes attached to that cog is the other kid, and I don't remember his name. I think he wanted to refer to himself as like Omni Boy, but I don't remember his name. And again, I think that should demonstrate an issue here, is I don't even remember his name. I just remember he has purple skin and he has powers, and that comes about really, really quickly as well. And it's like, okay, so he has powers, and that's set up pretty early, so okay, fine. Let's not criticize that happened, because that's like the premise of like the thing, right? You should be able to execute based off of that initial thing. And they, again, speedball his process into becoming a hero, essentially. Like, and you know, he kind of has this whole Damian Wayne thing going on, where he, like, kills the bad guys initially, like the two blue guys, whose names I also don't remember at 3 seasons in. That should tell you exactly the issue with Invincible, is, like, I don't know who these characters are a lot of the time. And it feels like they don't leave a big enough impact to be like, oh, like that Tiger guy, like, he left an impact, obviously. But I don't remember if Tiger was his name. And again, it's like, okay, so he did leave an impact, but just not enough for me to remember his name. So he was almost there, right? I feel like there's just something missing in there. And I think that is very consistent with the majority of characters throughout Season 3, is that there's, like, the B team of, like, and, you know, they're fracturing, the robot, Monster Girl, Immortal, the Clone Girl, whose name I don't know, Rex, and then the Shrink Girl, whose name I also don't know, unfortunately. So they have a fracture of, like, okay, we're splitting between those who agree with Cecil, because Cecil was tracking Mark to the extent of, like, obviously he was doing the whole thing with, that he was doing with Omni-Man still. So, they were keeping that consistent, and then, the season is about, at least the middle chunk of it is, like, dedicated to this. But, like, then, before that, like, I forget if it was episode 2 or 3, and I think this is a flaw, they go into the future, and it's like, okay, we're suddenly going into the future now with these 2 random new guys whose names I also don't know, who steal the Declaration of Independence to, like, try to stop this other guy who we, like, find out is, like, another version of Immortal or some shit. It's like, what the fuck are we doing? I'm sorry, but, like, what the fuck? What does this have to do with anything? What are we doing? Like, stop wasting my time. And it's like, you went from blazing just all of this, season 2 nonsense, and now you're gonna go pivot all the way elsewhere in the future, whatever dimension, because I don't know if it's the same dimension or not, because that's the problem we're in season fucking 3 of Invincible. Is like, I don't know, is it the same dimension? Is it a different dimensional feature? I don't fucking know. Point is, it kinda comes out of completely nowhere, has nothing to do with anything else in the season, it's just like, done and done! It's like, what? Why did you waste my time? You have so much going on. You did not need this. And it's like, okay, they clearly wanted to, add in some political intrigue. Okay, I'm fine with that. Like, I love political intrigue in my superhero shit. I have it too in my book Syndicate X. I get it. It's like, yeah, that's fun. That you can really draw, good parallels and all of that good, writing good stuff, right? But why did it have to come from the future? Like, what compelled the writers to, like, throw that together? It's like, what are you doing? And what does it have to, like... Okay. Let's try to rework this. Because I think that was, like, easily the worst part of, among the lower ends of season 3. I think this might actually be the worst episode. The one I'm referring to, where they just shit off to the future or whatever shit. So how do we fix this, right? Because you had that lady who was threatening Mark. She was a Viltrumite, right? Like, apparently there's 50 Viltrumites, right? So you have this whole threatening army of Viltrumites, and you have the capability to, utilize at least one of them, and you did. You used that lady who, like, threatened, or, whatever. Maybe you could do something with another Viltrumite instead of all the future shit, and maybe, this Viltrumite has a different view from the rest of the Viltrumites, and is even different from Omni-Man, in that he already kind of wants to operate on a more secretive level, on a more, like, subtle level, not demonstrating the flying maybe right away, maybe not demonstrating, like, oh, I can just do this, and this, and whatever, maybe do something along those lines. And I think you could have achieved the exact same political intrigue with encaging it in with something you already established, without having to throw in, again, this completely out of nowhere future bullshit that has, again, nothing to do with anything else. Like, okay, so I guess the only thing that did, quote-unquote, was affect Mark, I guess, but I feel like you could have achieved the same thing with a Viltrumite. I'm sorry, but, like, was that so hard a concept to pull off with a Viltrumite? Like, what? Is Robert Kirkman's writing skills just not up to task? Because later Walking Dead would surmise that's the case. And now it's already happening in Invincible Season 2 and 3, by extension of what happened in Season 2. And it's like, how are so many people a fan of this? How is this so blown up? I don't understand. It's like, we should be demanding so much better from our superhero content. Like, in addressing of, like, Season 1, there are, like, so many people. It was like, oh, this is such a refreshing take on the superhero genre. Oh, this is the realistic superhero thing of, like, Marvel's, like, gone off the deep end, and DC's, like, also drowning and swimming in shit, and it's all over the place. Oh, this is the refreshing new season of Invincible. And I was like, okay, fine. Let me check it out. Season 1, fine. No issues with Season 1. I would ask all of those people, what the fuck happened in Season 2? Because Season 2, as far as I went in and got out of, it was like, this is just MCU slop. It's the equivalent of MCU slop just shit on to the audience, and I don't know if they ate it up. I don't know if it was criticized as much as I criticized it. Like, what happened? Because I don't know. And then now we have Season 3, which I also don't know of, like, what the larger consensus is. But if I had to hazard a guess, it's, oh, everything's fine. Oh, the action, blah, it's like, come on. Please demand better. It's like, look, I criticized my own book, Syndicate X, a while ago. And, I pointed out, like, how there's actual grammatical errors in my book. I said that. And, like, I feel like, yeah, that's a problem, obviously. But it's like, okay, that's an issue, but if I were to compare Syndicate X with those grammatical issues versus Season 2, I'd be like, yeah, I'd rather see Syndicate X with the very few foibles of grammatical issue rather than what happened in Season 2 of Invincible 10 times out of 10. Like, of course I would. Like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. Of course I would. It's like, why are the standards that low? I don't understand. If people are praising Season 2, that is. Again, I wouldn't know, but if I were to hazard a guess, I probably wouldn't be surprised if it's an overwhelming... I mean, we got a Season 3, right? So, something clearly worked, I guess, for us to get a Season 3 in the first place, but here we are. And now, the issues continue. So, right, we have the thing with, again, the younger brother, Omniboy, we'll just call him that, because I don't know what else to call him, because I don't remember his actual name. They're fast-tracking him to be the hero, this new hero, this Damian Wayne archetype, essentially. Which is funny, because I was watching this other video of, like, oh, people's least favorite character or version of Robin is Damian Wayne. It's like, I don't mind Damian Wayne at all, honestly. Like, I don't know. I don't know what people are, like, mad about Damian Wayne for. It's like, I don't understand the criticisms, honestly. Like, I know that there have been several Robins, at the very minimum. It's like, okay, sure. But it's like, I think Damian Wayne's fine. In fact, comparatively, I know Damian Wayne's name. I can say that much, right? I know his name. That should tell you a lot. That I know his name. In comparison to Omniboy, who I only remember as the hero name. You know, Damian Wayne is, well, Damian Wayne, or Robin, I guess, technically speaking, but, like, for all intents and purposes, there really isn't much of a difference in that persona, quote-unquote, versus the costume. And that's sort of, like, the point of at least Damian Wayne at the very most. But, like, okay, so they're doing a Damian Wayne sort of, like, he's willing to kill the bad guys, and, like, you know, Mark and the mom are trying to say, like, no, you know, people have other people who have lost, and, you know, people have other connections, and, you know, that type of argument, which I think is fine, don't get me wrong, but again, I think it is indeed still fast-tracked, right? Because, again, like, all of this stuff happens within a few episodes, you know, and we see him hanging out with, like, other kids very briefly, like in the skate park at night or whatever, and it's like, okay, you have these little moments, those are nice, you know, I don't have an issue with any of these, but it definitely is this issue of pacing, of, like, okay, the problem is, I guess more so, is I don't necessarily even know the trajectory of Omniboy right now, and I don't know if that's necessarily even a criticism. It's just like, it feels like there is a question mark over him at this juncture at the end of the season. It's like, okay, so, like, you've demonstrated, because he, like, killed the two blue guys, and then, you know, he does his thing, and then the mom and Mark are trying to compel him to be like, oh no, hold on, you know, life is more precious than that, obviously, and, you know, think of what the dad did, right, in season 1, of that whole you know, like, sure, okay, but by the end, you have this guy, the one I had mentioned, the one that's like, okay, now we finally have a character, right, whose name I don't know. God damn it. All I know is he has electrical powers, so we'll call him Electric Man for the simplicity of this video, okay? I'm sorry that I don't recall, like, the majority of characters' names, but I feel like, again, he was so close to being the most compelling character in all of Invincible. Like, seriously, what they were doing with this character, I was like, yes, more of this. Yes, finally, a character that's, like, slowly building up. They're methodically starting to, like, okay. And then they just, like, blitz out of nowhere. And it's like, oh, come on. And it's not the only character. It's like, okay, before I continue on, even with him, you have Rex, who, you know, he's been the asshole, like, and you know, whatever, fine. And then they finally give him a moment to, you know, he's like, oh, I'm gonna try, you know, he's, throughout this season in particular, he's like, I'm trying to not be as much of an asshole. Essentially, is his entire arc here. And then, like, he reaches, like, the peak of it, and then they just kill him! And I'm not even gonna bother saying spoiler alert, because, like, it's like, okay, you have different universes, you have different worlds, season 2, and you can insta-repair people, so what the fuck are the stakes? I don't know if Rex is dead. They claim he's dead, but, well, what does that even mean? That's the issue, is that, like, we're in season 2, and I'm already asking, like, what are the consequences of death in this world? What are they? Because they rebuild the Cecil's, like, guy, apparently, like, a bajillion times or whatever. It's like, so they could just do that to Rex, right? I mean, why not? Apparently he was already kind of that, I guess, or some bullshit now? I don't know. It's like, again, what are the stakes for the heroes? Because it felt like, at least for season 1, it felt like, okay, the stakes are on the humans. And that felt compelling enough. But it's like, it doesn't feel like it ever affects the characters we're following. And that's actually one of the biggest issues, is like, we should be fearful of the heroes' losses as well. Of course we should. That should be like one of the fundamental things we should be concerned about. What do you mean? That's like the whole point of the whole superhero shtick to begin with. Of course we should care about if a character lives or dies. But I'm already here in season 2 being like, I don't know if that actually means jack shit. I don't know. Because again, they've already introduced time travel. There's multiple universes. For all I know, season 4, they could just chuck in a different Rex from a different universe and wham bam, thank you ma'am, he's all back and better than ever, or whatever, some shit. I don't know. Like, they could do that now. And it's like, okay, I guess. It's like, come on. What are you doing, writers of Invincible? It's like, did you not even think about the consequences before you just threw the thing over the shark? You know, you jumped that shark, as the expression I said earlier was. And it's like, well, you can't go back now, so it's like, again, what are even the basic stakes of this show? It's like, I don't know. And that should like worry basic fans. And it's like, I don't know if they are seeing what I'm seeing. It's like, is there a punishment for any of this? At least, again, in the hero spectrum of it all. And in terms of humans, obviously, there's the catastrophe after the catastrophe after the catastrophe. And it's like, okay, they're keeping that consistent all throughout. And it's like, it all cultivates in probably one of the worst, again, time travel, world dimensional bullshits things I've seen. Because guess what? It comes back in season 3. A bunch of marks come in from different universes to fuck up this Mark's world because this other guy from season 2 promised them all different shit. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why is that your solution? Why is the main antagonist, who I thought was going to be this guy, by the way, the electricity guy, suddenly shifted to the guy from season 2 who brought in a dimensional versions of Invincible to fuck up Invincible in his world, to be like, ha, take that, Invincible, now you're gonna be punished or whatever. You could have, again, accomplished this in so many different ways without having the need to go to the lengths of dimensional travel to accomplish the same goal. It's like you already had the character to do it with. You had the electricity guy. You had the build-up. You didn't need the marks. You didn't need them at all. They did not need to appear in season 3 at all. And I think that was egregious. It is so frustrating. It is so frustrating that, like, we're in season 3 and it's like, what are the heroes to do? I mean, I guess they're just gonna find ways to win. Whoop-de-doo! What does that mean? I mean, are there more marks? Presumably. So there could just be an infinite number of attacks for all I know. It's so frustrating. Right, so you have this guy, Electric Guy. Let me get back to him. Because he was compelling up until a point. Then it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, you made the same fucking mistake as the same thing as the guy we're fighting now in Season 2. You flipped his switch far too early. Far too early. And it's like, what are the writers doing? What is Robert Kirkman doing? You're blitzing all of this gold mine of writing material for fucking bullshit. For dimensional world ending bullshit. And it's like, why? You have a treasure trove waiting for you and you just cast it aside instantly. So, spoilers, I guess, for this character, because I guess I care enough to say that for this one. So, Electric Guy, right, his whole deal is that he was there during that attack, the initial attack between Omni-Man and Invincible. He somehow managed to survive. Fantastic. We have a character who has seen the carnage, and he's like, you know what? Fuck both of them. They destroyed so much. I'm just gonna go after him, both of them, because they are both responsible. Fantastic start. Beautiful start. Wonderful. We're off to a fantastic start. We have this interesting, compelling character. Fantastic. Okay. And he does what I, was thinking like the rest of the world was going to start doing. Like, okay, I clearly need to upgrade. Because I'm not, as I am, I'm not going to stand a chance for up against Invincible and Omni-Man, obviously. So I'm going to get these little enhancer things on my back and chest and all this other stuff. Which, it enables his electric powers to, cultivate, pretty much. So he gets his power set from this. And it's like, okay. So far, so good. You've built up this character. He has plenty of... You gave him correct motivation. Core motivation. Simple. Block by block. Someone who survived, who just saw, the tail end of this destruction, and just, understandably so, had, friends, family in this case, be completely decimated. And he's like, this needs justice. And yeah, he's right. As I alluded to earlier, when the antagonist is correct, it's like, that's compelling. So, he has a compelling case already. We're off to a fantastic start. He has a compelling case. It's like, okay, both of them need to face justice, because, again, from his perspective, yeah, he's, again, right. I mean, Mark has his own shtick to deal with, and, we can save that for a separate discussion, but, again, just from his perspective, he is right. Again, if anyone else was in that situation and witnessed what he witnessed, I'm pretty sure most people would actually reach his conclusion. There needs to be justice for both of them, for what he perceived happened. So he's, he goes out, and he starts out small. He's like, okay, I'm gonna make a plea to, the law, the basic law. Okay, fantastic place to start. But they decline him. It's like, okay. And then they have him escalate a little bit more. Okay, so now he's gonna show up at this memorial service. And it's like, okay, I'm done with that. Doesn't seem like too extreme yet. So he arrives there, and, the hero, everyone else is like, they're rejecting him, right? They're rejecting this idea that his idea of justice is, right. They're all saying he's the one who needs help, and it's like, okay, so no one's, listening to this guy, which is, baffling to me. It's like, okay, so I think that's a little bit of an issue. Like, that was even more, disturbing to see in Season 2, especially, when it's like, you're not even listening, you're just attacking. That was, like, Mark's whole thing in Season 2, and it's like, he didn't learn! He fucking didn't! No! It's like, you didn't make the progress that I thought he would. It's like, you're blitzing the progress, but you're not blitzing the pacing of the arc to match it, is what I'm trying to describe here. It's so weird, right? So there's that issue in a nutshell, and then it's like, okay, so he's at this memorial service, and here's the thing, is that he starts to reach other people, because he's, like, calling out the people who have lost their lives' names, and it's like, okay, where I thought that was going to go initially is that the people who heard him and who were, like, reflecting on that they too would actually join his cause. I thought that's where they were going, and they fucking missed the opportunity. It's like, that's the army. That's the Invincible army. That's what should have replaced the fucking Invincibles from bullshit lands or whatever. That should have been it. You had the keys to the kingdom of this excellent arc of, like, now these people who are just these average people who've lost so much in this one day are like, they hear this guy and they're like, oh shit, my perspective matches that perspective, I'm gonna join that guy, fuck Invincible, fuck Omnian, fuck them both, I'm gonna join this cause. And slowly but surely you get more and more of the people from that group to join his group, and they start to develop like he is. And slowly but surely they start to build and build and build. And then you have the army that would be the equivalent of what we got in the season finale. That would have been so fucking good. And they squandered it. They just had him leave and then get the shit beat out of him again. It's like, you had a golden key and you threw it away. And it's like, okay, fuck me, I guess. We're gonna skip on that potential gold mine of an opportunity. Okay, so now they're gonna completely blitz him and make him a hypocrite. And, like, the next episode, or whatever, how many episodes it was away from the one I'm just describing now, it's like, are you fucking kidding me? This is exactly what just happened in Season 2. You had the Season 2 guy be, like, completely justifiably angry at Mark and then become a hypocrite in, like, 2 seconds. It's like, why? You had the golden key, and then not only did you throw it away, you took the garbage slop, and then you said, we're gonna double down on that. 'Cause that's good writing. So get this. So he goes on for a third time, but this time he wants to involve his wife and kid. He ties them up. And they die. He kills them. Ooh. It's like, fuck me. You could have saved that for later. But nope, we're blitzing to make him the hypocrite. He's now clearly the bad guy now. He's just wrong. Fuck. Fuck me. Why? Why do I have this, like, so much more compelling story in my head than what Season 3 provided? How was I able to do that? Oh wait, it's because I thought of the fucking basics. It's because I thought about pacing. It's because I thought about how characters outside of, like, the main core character group are, like, interacting. Like, obviously this electric guy was, like, the new shoe-in. But then they just toss him aside or just, like, blitz through his story. And it's like, what? It's like I'm living in an alternate dimension myself. It's like, what are we doing? Again, you had the keys to such a wonderful treasure trove. And then the whole thing with, like, Mark and Omniboy, like, that can come back into question. Just naturally. Like, oh, I was killing the blue guys, but look, now the people that have lost are attacking us. You can build off of that. There's so much material just waiting, and you fucking threw it away. For what? For what? Several marks. Oh, it's so cool. They're all voiced by the same guy. Woo, fancy. It's like, it's sad. It's sad that this is the state of affairs. It's like, I don't want a season 4. I want Invincible to get scrapped. And that should be a crying shame. Like, they need to go back to the drawing board already. They need to reset this shit now. Season 3. You know, people have complained about the MCU, right? About, like, okay, we're losing our Avengers, you know, there's all these different continuity things that are starting to, like, conflict with one another. But, like, there was an era, I don't know if Invincible's writers are aware of this, where the MCU actually had something going on, believe it or not. It was like the first few arcs of Marvel. I know that's hard to believe, looking back on it, but there was a whole cultivation of movies that built up to the Avengers. And that movie was special for a lot of people. It was special to me. I'm not even gonna argue that. Of course it was. It's like, yeah, you cultivated so much room for all of these characters to have this epic, you know, collision with each other and work together and all this stuff. And you even had, you know, and you were able to follow that up. But then all these newer characters started jumping in. It's like, okay, hold on. Okay, so now there's dimensions, time travel, different dimensions and their different rules and concepts within those dimensions or whatever. There's like, okay, there's like Deadpool and Wolverine, who aren't a part of the MCU, but they're able to mock the MCU, so maybe they can be a part of the MCU? I don't fucking know. Okay, we have, you know, Iron Man's gone, we have Captain America's gone, retired, we have Hulk, who is AFK or some shit. I don't fucking know where the Hulk is. I don't know what he's up to. Honestly, there's a Red Hulk now, I guess. That just happened. There's like 50, or like, I don't even know how many bad guy groups there are now in the MCU. You know, they finally dealt with the Eternals thing being this huge thing that should have been a thing earlier, but now it's finally a thing. And it's like, okay, you made it a thing, and then you rushed it. And it's like, okay, fine, I guess. And it's like, okay. So they're clearly scrambling, and it's like they need that hard reset at this juncture. I think that ought to be a clear sign to everybody. But we are talking about Invincible Season 2. Season 2. That is so ridiculous that we are only at Season 3, and I'm like, this needs a fucking reset. This needs a reset. It does. Because, like, I'm already fucking lost. It's like, okay, so there's now already fucking different worlds, there's already different fucking universes, there's already a different fucking timeline or two or whatever bullshit. So, consequences are already out of they're in the ether as already. We have character arcs that are done. Robot, again, I point to him still, because he's just joined at the hip to Monster Girl there, and her problem has been solved, by the way, in Season 3, her primary one of the de-aging process thing happening, so that, I guess they're just them now. I don't know. So, yeah. It's like, okay, so you did that, fine, whatever. You killed Rex, which, again, I don't know what that means. I should know what that means, but I don't, because of all the bullshit you already introduced. As early as Season 2-3. So, there's that problem. It's like, okay, so now you have Omni Boy, who has a giant question mark over his head of like, okay, so, you know, he went through this whole mini arc of like, to kill or not to kill, so, question mark on that, I guess. I don't even fucking care already. It's like, I don't care. What does it mean? You know? What is the weight of him killing any of them actually mean? That's the problem. It all comes back to that now. It's like when you have a multiverse, that's the gate that you have now opened as early as Season 2. Fuck. How did they do that? How did they get to Season 2 and just go, whoop, there goes the consequences. Bye. See you later. Fuck off, consequences of our actions. It's like, oh, they try to make a big deal in this season of like, oh, Mark is finally the one to deal with his consequences. Is he? I don't fucking know. Like, what? Like, what? I don't know. Like, I don't know what any of that means now. In this space of, like, oh, there are a bajillion marks, so was it his fault? Like, I don't know what to think of all that. It's like, it's so beyond the pale of where we should be. And it's like, fuck. You had a golden key, and you threw it away. That's all there is left to say. I mean, I wish Season 2 would be deleted. Or be not canon. Remove the canon of Season 2. That's what Robert Kirkman should have just said, and make apparent now. But, like, Season 3 is also simultaneously, like, still fuck. It's still like, oh, you still did the several... No. No! You had the key! You had the perfect setup for an antagonist / potential future villain. And you sped his villainy. Why? Writers, if you made it this far, and if you're ever working on a project, do me a favor. Watch all of Invincible, Season 1, 2, and 3. And then, never do Season 2 and 3 in your writing. Never do it. Because you will lose people. Guaranteed. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like, how did they do that so fast? How did they remove consequences so fucking fast without a second thought? It's like, what are you doing? That's like the baseline of like caring about a person in a fictional world is like, You have to have consequences. You have to have stakes. You have to have these core things to make a thing you care about consistently you're caring about that thing. It's like, even The Walking Dead, for all of its issues, it knew, like, when a person was bit, depending on where they were bit, that could very well be their end. And in most cases, if not 99% of them, it was. Fucking, okay, stakes simplified, but they're there. They exist. And that alone is enough to, hold enough of The Walking Dead together, despite its other issues. It's like, at least I can say, despite its other issues, at least The Walking Dead kept its stakes alive consistently throughout its run. At least I can give the show that much. I cannot say the same for Invincible, even as early as season fucking 2. Unbelievable. This is another 3 out of 10. I think I gave Invincible season 2 a 2 out of 10. I would probably say that this is a 3 out of 10, because again, you had the potential, but then you fucked it. So that's my review of Invincible Season 3. It's a shit show. But if you ended up enjoying this review, I hope you learned something, and please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. 100 to my petition to help out some other YouTubers. Second to my PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly. And third to my Discord server, you can join, collab, shield, all that cool stuff. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.